In general, most of these exercises are going to occur around 60 to 90 seconds in terms of work period, and we're going to want to choose a load where they can complete the entire exercise for that time period, but they should be fatiguing as they get towards the end of the movement. So we're going to go through a progression of different exercises that we can do here, and generally there's 3 categories that this sort of stuff falls into. Okay, the first is an overhead type movement. Now, strongman do use some overhead stuff, and some sports have more of an overhead component than others. But the purpose of the overhead stuff is really to develop and dive into that postural area of where if you're seeing an athlete who can't maintain a plank for as long as they need to, or you're seeing their posture constantly suffer as they start to fatigue, this sort of endurance type training where they have to carry a load overhead and move around in different postures and different positions is a great way to build that sort of postural endurance and that strongman type strength that you see them so capable of displaying. The second one is an actual safety squat bar walk, and we can do different loads in different distances, different directions with a safety bar squat. And again, what we're doing is loading them up with a greater load than they're ever going to get with the overhead movements and forcing them to move in different directions for 60 to 90 seconds, carrying that load around and training their posture to be maintained across those distances and training them to be able to handle those loads both mentally and physically. And then third, we can do some sort of carry type exercise. So if you have stones, you can do stone carry. If you don't, you can do plate carries. You can do fireman's carry. We'll show you some kettlebell carries here. But we're basically progressing in different ways from overhead to on the back to in the arms, and just training the ability to develop that posture or maintain those proper postures over long periods of time, and also develop a lot of grip strength, which is very important in combat sports and wrestling. Football and other sports as well, grip strength can play a huge role. So we want to develop that as a result of our methodology as well. So to get the ball rolling here, we're going to show you first just some plate drills, and this would be the introduction into strongman type training. So you're going to choose a moderately heavy plate here. We have a 15 kilo, and basically what we're doing with Mike is we're going to have him lock it out over his head. Okay, so what we're looking for, of course, is completely locked out joints. We want to see his wrists, his elbows and his shoulders all in a straight line. We want to see a good neutral core, good neutral spine position. We want to see his hips aligned under his feet. And all we're going to do first is just kind of get him used to that position. So we're going to get him staying in this posture and able to maintain this posture for 30 to 60 seconds, make sure everything looks good. Okay, we assume that he can do that. That tells us essentially that he's chosen the right load to use. It's not too heavy to the point where he's going to break down. It's not too light to the point where he's not getting any work done. And again, the key here is everything we're doing is about maintaining this posture and this proper technique as we're moving around. So keep in mind, sports are dynamic. Actions occur in different planes and different ranges of motion. So we're going to have him next start walking with the plate. And we'll do just a real simple walk. We'll have him literally just walk backwards at a moderate pace, keeping everything aligned as he's doing that. Head neutral, eyes looking straight ahead. And we'll always use a nice external cue. So if we see his elbow start to bend, for example, rather than telling him to straighten his elbows, we'll tell him to drive the plate up to the ceiling. Okay, that's a better cue to help him maintain those elbows in that position that we're looking for. So in this exact posture, let's have him just go ahead and walk backwards to the end of the turf, nice and controlled. So again, we're always focused on controlled range of motion. Okay, now walk forwards. Okay, keeping the eyes straight forward, relaxing the face, again, controlling that level of arousal. Go ahead and walk backwards again. And if you had greater distances, you could have him just walk further distances, and then go ahead and come back. Okay, you could have him walk further distances. You can have him do a variety of things. Now we'll have him walk sideways, for example. So let's have him face one of the walls. Okay, and I want you just to sidestep, keeping the plate straight overhead. Okay, and again, this is going to challenge his ability to maintain that core integrity in different directions. Go ahead and walk back. Okay, as soon as we start seeing his technique fall apart, that's where we're going to basically end it or give him the cues to maintain whatever it is we're looking for. So let's do a couple more, just back over there. Good. Okay, so we see he's doing a good job of maintaining posture there. His elbows are locked, the bar straight, or the plate straight over his head. Okay, take a break for a second. So again, what we're looking for to start out here is being able to maintain that good spine position, the plate completely locked out overhead, and see that he's able to breathe and have good respiration and have good movement as he's moving in different directions. So forward, sideways, backwards, he could change directions, all those sorts of things. When we see he can do that for 60 to 90 seconds, now we can start to add a little challenge into the activity. So let's have him go ahead and pick it up again. And now instead of just walking without any sort of barriers or just free walking, we're going to have him walk over the hurdles. So let's have you walk forward over the hurdles. Good, turn around and come back. And again, if you had a greater distance, you really would want to pick a bit of a further range, but for the purpose of demonstration, we'll keep it in the shorter activity. Go ahead and do another one. Keep it locked up. Okay. It is going to start, being fatiguing, no doubt. Okay, you can see he's already hit the hurdle a little bit. Okay, now let's come back sideways. Again, can he control his posture? Can he control the spine? Can he keep his eyes where they need to be? Can he control everything and keep the plate locked out overhead? Okay, and I can see he's starting to lose it, so we'll have him just do one more, drive the plate up to the ceiling. Okay, and again, you want to push them to that point of fatigue where they're having to really focus and develop that endurance, but not so far to the point their technique falls apart. Okay, and come back, then you're done. Okay, eyes straight forward, drive the plate up to the ceiling. Good. Eyes forward, breathe. Okay, go ahead and put it down. Okay, so really, there's no limit to the amount of things you can do, with this type of activity. You can have them step up onto boxes, and you can have them do lunges. You can have them do, different multi-directional movements. The key here is just teaching them how to control that overhead weight in a way that maintains that postural integrity and that core strength, as well as learning how to breathe and be able to handle load. Because again, a lot of what we talked about is just the importance of handling stress, of being able to push yourself to points of fatigue and then control it. So you don't want to have the athletes under heavy loads panic or let their technique fall apart just because they're fatigued. So we can gradually and progressively increase the load of this activity, from 15 kilos, 20, 25 kilos, whatever the case may be, and teach him how to move well and control his spine, control his breathing, control all the elements of posture, even as he starts to fatigue under load. Okay? Now, having done that, let's say he progresses, everything looks great, we can start to add some load. So we can grab the safety squat bar. And now what we'd start to do is add resistance, because there's only so much weight we can do with a plate overhead, right? So we're going to do basically very similar movements, but now we can add the safety squat bar where we could actually start loading them up. So we're not going to load the safety squat bar up for this example. We're just going to have him demonstrate some of the stuff we can do. But we could load, his body weight. We could load, a fairly significant amount of weight and have him do carries. So the same thing we'll start out here is literally just a walk, just a carry. Nice and smooth. Again, what we're looking for, the same things. The bar should be aligned straight over his back. We're going to have him walk backwards. Okay, now we'll demonstrate basically a lunge. So you can have him do a lunge position. Okay, controlling that posture. Good. And again, what we're looking for is all the same stuff. Can they control themselves under load in that 60 to 90 second, go ahead and go backwards, that 60 to 90 second time period. Okay. And again, because the weight is now centered differently and there's going to be a different amount of resistance, it's going to take a different level of control in order to achieve that. Okay, now we can have them walk over the hurdles. Good. And it doesn't even have to be this complicated. It can be literally, if you have the space for it, a parking lot, go ahead and go sideways. Okay, if you have a parking lot or you have some sort of space that allows it, you can literally just have them walk, as far as they can until their posture breaks down. And actually, if you want to see a great example of this, you can go to 8weeksout.com and look up the NSW mile, and that's a great example of using the squat bar carry over distances. And John and Craig from Ethos will tell you all about how they've incorporated that sort of stuff in their training. It really comes from the military background. All right, you can go ahead and set that down. And again, the sky's the limit. You can come up with all sorts of different movements with the safety squat bar. The big advantage, or the reason we use the safety squat bar, is simply because we can load them up with quite a bit more weight than we can with just the plate. But we can do it in a way that's going to make sure that they're not prone to injury and make sure they're learning proper movement and proper basic mechanics that'll translate into their sport itself. Okay, the final one we'll cover here. Again, very similar idea as we're going to use a carry now. So this is another great one for developing grip strength in particular. And I also like to use uneven loads, so we can use slightly different weights on the kettlebells to really force that unilateral strength development where they have to be able to compensate for varying loads in different planes. So he can just do a straight walk. Okay, and he's going to have, again, we have David go backwards. He's got different loads in each hand. Okay, now he's going to have to learn how to carry different loads and compensate for that and be able to control that, which is a different experience than holding an even load directly over your head. Go ahead and do another one. And it's a different experience than even walking with the bar. So we're adding load in different positions. Go ahead and do sideways. Okay, we're adding load in different movements and forcing them to learn how to compensate for that by maintaining good technique, good posture, breathing, eye positioning, all that sort of stuff. Let's do a lunge. A little bit bigger steps. Okay, good. Don't let the head go down. There you go. See, we want to make sure you can control that posture. Okay, backwards. So you can do different movements here. You don't have to just do the same movement. Typically, like I said, a little bit bigger steps. Okay, one more. Good. I'm going to set it down. Okay, and again, it's going to challenge the grip. It's going to challenge the core. It's going to challenge some of that anaerobic buffering that happens as you start to get fatigued in the forearms and the shoulders and the core. And it's going to force him to maintain perfect technique, perfect posture as he progresses in different weights and in different movements. And again, I like to start out with just a walk. Then he can progress to over hurdles. Then he can progress up to a box. Then he can progress to multi-directional movements, changing direction, all sorts of different things. Because again, we want to focus on dynamic aspects of movement rather than just single plane movements. We want to incorporate different things. We can make it a bit unpredictable for him. We can tell him to go in different patterns or different movements as he's going. And we can progress from a simple overhead exercise into a weighted safety squat bar type walk or type maneuver, and into an uneven type carry situation. You can do other types of carries as well, but kettlebells and uneven kettlebells are a great way to progress. So again, these are a good tool to help incorporate into the training program, just to develop, again, local muscular endurance, postural integrity, and postural endurance, and grip strength in particular, while also teaching them control, teaching them how to pace themselves, how to control themselves under load and under fatigue. And it's just a good adjunct training tool to add in, because a lot of athletes enjoy this type of stuff. And again, they're going to see improvements fairly rapidly once you start building stuff in here. And again, it's nice to set distances, it's nice to set loads, and show them continual improvement. So that's the Strongman Endurance Training Method. Great way to build in local endurance, and particularly endurance of the core and postural muscles as well.